Hello and welcome to the first of the 9-part series of how to future-proof your warehouse. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Daniel. I'm the event director for CMAT Australia. As you may know, CMAT has recently moved to September for obvious reasons. So what we've been doing in the meantime is working with some of our colleagues and partners to try and put some content together for the community. This webinar series is one of those series that we will be doing over that time. We've joined partners with the Fuzzy LogX team to really showcase some of the solutions, some of the innovations that are really shaping this industry and go through it in a 9-part series, hopefully to educate and to give a bit more information about that. Today is obviously an interactive session, so very much encourage everyone to be putting questions and thoughts into the panel, which we will get to towards the end of the session. I actually would like to pass over now for the introduction to Jeff, who will just give us a quick overview and oversight of what we can be expecting for the next 8 sessions beyond this. So I'll pass over to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Dan. Hopefully everyone can hear me well. I'm just going to share my screen now. Coming through now, so everyone should be able to see that now. So thank you very much for joining us today. Today's session 1. It's been titled "From Ugly Duckling to Black Swan," and yeah, we'll just dive straight in. Sorry. Hello. Oh, there we go. So first of all, who is Fuzzy LogX? And why have CMAT partnered with us for this webinar series? And I'd say it's basically the same reason our long list of happy clients have partnered with us in the past as well. And that's because we're here to help, and we know a thing or two about intralogistics and DC design. And we're always learning as well. So what we learn from other clients, it always gets passed on. So most of the fuzzies, that's what we call ourselves, everyone that works for Fuzzy LogX at this point, started their professional careers working for system vendors or 3PL companies. So it just shows that we have quite a history of experience, a wealth of experience in the team. And furthermore, when Fuzzy LogX was started almost 5 years ago this year, the key driving force behind the startup was to make sure that every warehouse got the right solution for them. There's just too many white elephants in the industry, and one of the key drivers for us is to make sure that that doesn't happen to our clients or to anyone really, and that's why we're really excited about being involved in this series. As you can see on the page, our services range from consulting as trusted business advisors, people call us their sideline backup there, to driving the DC design component of a greenfield site completely for our clients, and we do that regularly as well. We focus on building healthy business cases for every bit of improvement we can find along the way, and with strong project management and data science offering, we truly believe that we are the experts in DC design and automation in Australia. So let's get on to what we're going to be talking about today. And this slide's titled "A Brief Overview of the Humble Warehouse." I'm always referring to the warehouse being the ugly duckling of an organization. Historically, the warehousing, logistics and distribution operations of an organization have been considered cost drivers of a business, which were to be managed. I liken it to whipping the proverbial donkey. You give it less money, you whip it harder, and you expect more results. However, as the profile of fulfillment has shifted from B2B to B2C, or business to customer, with the rise of e-commerce, the cost per line skyrockets. And if you haven't engineered your operation to meet your requirements, you can find yourself quite down a pretty dark hole. So where a business may have been used to supplying direct to businesses or B2B, let's say their own stores, all of a sudden they are finding themselves having to supply a single unit pick directly to a customer's home. And this transition is not easy to make overnight. Coupled to this, the back office organization is also having to pivot with their marketing strategies to now make promises individually to customers in a battle for the ultimate customer experience with the likes of Amazon and co. You can't continue to throw labor at these types of problems. It's time to go back to fundamentals and address your root cause issues. It's time for the ugly duckling to become the white swan. and ensure the business fulfills the promises it's making with their customers. That is, after all, why they're called fulfillment centers. And it all starts with the logistics. When I think of the word logistics, I think of movement. Specifically, when we're talking warehousing and distribution, it can also mean the lack of movement when you're storing something. But it's all about spatial awareness and a process behind it that is logistics. And when we talk about intralogistics, we're talking about all of those physical movements that happen inside the four walls of the DC, intra. The majority of the cost associated with a warehouse is labor due to movement, usually walking. So it makes sense that you focus on the logistics. I remember when I was doing my master's, you go back and one of the key mantras of logistics is all of the processes inside a distribution center are made up of movements. We should be trying to optimize the logistics, the right item in the right quantity at the right time and place in the right condition, delivered to the right customer at the right price. Efficient logistics are crucial to minimizing the cost of each fulfilled order, as the competition to provide the ultimate customer experience hottens up. I regularly hear stories of Amazon in the US trialing leading edge technologies in order to pilot 1 hour delivery times for their select prime customers around the country. They have raised customer expectations of delivery cycles and have done so using a lot of technology. In order to compete, you must innovate. So how do we move from just a shed to working as a world-class distribution center? What are the most common phrases we hear in warehousing when we get to come in and do site visits and the rest of it? You ask someone, why are you doing that process over there? And the most common phrase is, this is how we've always done it. This is how it's always been done. For me, it immediately identifies an opportunity for improvement which should be investigated. When done right, one should engineer a warehouse using data inputs for transactional and storage analysis, operational inputs for profiling logistical requirements, and best practice processes and technology to achieve functional compliance, optimize service levels, and most importantly, build a strong business case. That's why we like to call it warehouse engineering. Information technology systems in your business serve a dual purpose when future-proofing your operation. Your current architecture will support your efforts to run scenarios for what your current, historical, and future outbound profiles may look like. Something I've been thinking about a lot since COVID is the fact that in the time that I've been involved in intralogistics and helping our clients, I've run countless scenarios for clients, but none have ever anticipated the conditions that we're seeing during this crisis. The most common scenario is a traditional bricks and mortar retailer with a growing online volume. The current volumes may be growing from about 10 to 15% of total outbound volume, and they're expecting 10 to 20% growth on that per year. When you're modeling 5 to 10 year scenarios, you don't really find yourself looking at anything more than 40 to 50% of your outbound volume. But businesses are seeing numbers beyond that right now. I know that I, for one, will be looking at those additional scenarios in the future to see how operational design may be influenced for maximum flexibility and scalability. It's all about the data as well. You can only run this analysis with good data. So if you don't have good data, it's the right place to start. And you'll notice that the first couple of functional areas that we cover in the warehouse, they're very data dependent. So the first couple of sessions, we will be talking a little bit about how you capture that data and about management of that data properly. We spend more time than we're willing to admit on cleaning data for our clients. Without good data, it's hard to put a strong business case together that won't be torn to shreds at the boardroom table. And when we talk about a key point that takes you from a shed to a distribution center, it's all about how your information systems are set up to provide business intelligence and also maintain fulfillment efficiency. I have heard this transition referred to as moving from systems of record to systems of insight. Legacy systems are not usually great business intelligence interfaces and lack a lot of process functionality that can be off the shelf these days. For some businesses, this can be a huge inefficiency. But don't fret if you're in this category. There are now ways to shortcut your path to best practice processes using islands of automation, and we'll talk about them a little bit, and that they will be a common theme of this series. Okay, so next slide. So, piecing the technology puzzle together. Traditionally, implementing automation and warehouse management systems into operations meant investments of large amounts of resources, capital, and a lot of planning. And you could still end up with a white elephant. There's many of them out there today. The problem with this style of automation is that it requires a business to lock down a design level for 5 to 10 years. And this can be quite hard to do. It's essentially crystal ball gazing. And I don't know about you, but if COVID's shown me anything, it's that I'm less comfortable doing this than I ever have been. Not only is it hard enough to predict growth forecasts, but changing order profiles can kill automated systems. This is compounded by the fact that traditional automation is inherently inflexible. You build it and it does one thing over and over again. The anecdote is you can't, they're not flexible at all. You can't ask an ASRS system to get up at the end of the day and go sweep floors or go work in receiving because Dave's sick. But in recent times, we're seeing an influx of innovative and mobile technology entering our market, characterized by their speed of deployment, thin client and cloud capabilities, and versatility in workflow automation. These solutions present a massive opportunity if you know what you're looking for in your business. One of the greatest things about this new technology is the ability to automate one function of your warehouse using the islands of automation approach. This approach enables you to focus on the key cost drivers in your operation and engineer the cost out of these functional processes in order to directly achieve what you are hoping for. Instead of having to automate everything, you just focus on what you need to do. For example, we're looking at a couple of examples on the page. You could use an AGV to take care of your inbound receipt and put away movements. You could have a standalone ASRS system in a box. You could have a WCS-enabled put wall and mobile robotics picking and sortation system. That's all fast to deploy, relatively low capital, but is it what you need? And at the end of the day, it's all possible with intelligent design. Often this type of technology can be implemented with minimal WMS upgrades. As a WCS and WES, and we will learn about more about those systems in the coming weeks, they can now take over a lot of the fulfillment operations. So you don't have to do this huge changeover for your business. So what's this series about? Basically, this goes back to a commitment we've made as Fuzzy Logics to make all warehouses better. We've put together this series in conjunction with CMAT and in conjunction with all the partners that are going to be involved in order to try to share as much information as possible in these difficult times so that everyone can take this opportunity to build stronger and more resilient operations, warehousing and distribution operations across Australia and New Zealand. Each session will be structured in a similar format. The key ingredients that you should be looking to gather during every session should be how you will use data, logistics, and technology to improve your operation personally. Each session will begin with a short talk on the specific functional area to be explored. We'll talk a little bit more about this in the next slide. This portion will be run by us, Fuzzy Logics, as independents. It will be solution independent. We're going to be focused on the fundamental first principles of that functional area. This will then usually be followed up with a vendor technology presentation where we will be given some insight into different vendors. Every week we'll have different vendors, and they'll also be applying their solution suite to that specific functional area, as well as giving us a broader overview of what they can provide. We're really focused on solutions, on practicality here as well. And finally, every session, we're trying to include something a little bit more interactive, a video. Today we're going to show a pretty cool video and have a roundtable discussion. And that's the format that we want to have. We want to have a bit of theory, a bit of a technology overview, and then we want to open up the floor to some industry experts, show some videos of what's been implemented recently, and what's possible in the industry. So there's a lot to get through. So today's step one. It's 9 steps to a future-proof warehouse. The first step is understanding. It's understanding that you need to make a commitment to your operation to get better, and join us during this series so that we can all take a journey together to learn about how we can achieve optimal processes and operations in each of the functional areas that are outlined on the screen. So we're going to go walk our way completely through a warehouse and distribution operating, from inbound receiving to put away and storage, to picking, dispatch. We're even going to delve into inventory management and tools that are available for you there. But the idea is to get you from the ugly duckling to the beautiful swan, and also lead you straight into CMAP, which is going to be in September, as Daniel has advised. When you get to CMAP, you're going to be equipped with all this information and all of these questions to directly go to who you need to talk to start really getting some things into motion. So it's the choice is yours. I was thinking about the matrix when I put this together, and it's the red pill or the blue pill. You know, you can stick your head in the sand, or you can become the savior of your warehouse, and you're not alone. You can see on this page that we've got world-class suppliers and technology providers that are coming along with us for this journey, and we're going to have industry experts joining us for the discussions and the rest of it. So it's very much geared about how much can we transfer to you so that you can make your operation better. So that's session one. We're going to try to keep them nice and brief and straight to the point. But for all those with a keen eye, you'll be probably saying, Jeff, you've taken us from a ugly duckling to a nice looking swan, but you were talking about a black swan. And this idea just occurred to me as we were putting this series together. But you know, the black swan is the perfect metaphor for what we're going through at the moment. I've got Google Dictionary providing an example for a definition for what black swan means, and it says an unpredictable or unforeseen event, typically one with extreme consequences. And we're not turning the blind eye on COVID. We know that everyone's supply chains are changing, and we're going to be addressing that. So now I'm handing over to Baz, who's just going to talk a little bit about how COVID is changing things today, and then we'll move into the video and the panel discussion at the end. So thank you so far. A little bit more to go. Hope you're enjoying it.
Thanks for joining. And look, I'll skip the introductions because Jeffrey's already done a lot about that as well. So I'm just going to do a quick, I've got about 8 minutes left because we lost a few minutes because of the technical difficulties. To talk about the impact of COVID-19 on supply chains in general, and you know, could have been prevented. Would technology have helped during this time that we are facing this black swan event, like Jeffrey said? Normally, everyone already faces normal challenges. You know, economic uncertainty, especially here in Australia, availability of labour. We all know there's varying fuel prices now. Just drove past a fuel station, we're back up to $1.17 again. This is normal time. What we're facing now isn't normal time. You know, a black swan event happens once every decade or every 2 decades. We haven't seen one of these for a long, long time. And what we're seeing now is people doing strange things. You know, we all see the hoarders trying to get toilet paper. I go to the supermarket. I still can't get flour. Sanitizer now from the local gin distillery because they're the only people who actually have stock available. So so can you go to the next slide for me, Jeff? So what actually happened, and this might be easy if I do it myself, Jeff, because this is a
okay.
Ask for.
All right, you give it a go.
Yeah.
How's that?
That's good. So this is basically, if you take a normal supply chain, a very simple one, you've got raw material distribution that goes to a customer. Very simple, 5 steps, and we're done. So what actually happens is most businesses, or actually almost every single business, looks at their supply chain in isolation. So this is company one, you know, this is their standard process. This is what they've always done. There are, you know, usual things that happen during this time of normal supply chain, you might run out of a bit of stock. You might have some disruption with some raw materials. You might have some shipping space available, but normally, we cater for all these things. What actually happens now when we do 5 supply chains and we get 5 companies? So if you take company one supplies company 2. So without company's 1 finished products, company 2 can't actually start manufacturing. Their finished product is a raw material for someone else's manufacturing. And this is, for instance, what happens with the flour industry. But the reason we can't get flour is basically because it's not because there's no flour, because we make flour locally. It is literally because we don't have any packaging material. There is no bags of flour available to actually put the flour into. So without finished products, someone making little bags that the flour go into, we actually can't get flour in a supermarket. So if company 2 can't actually make flour bags, then they can't actually send flour bags to the flour manufacturers, which means the flour manufacturers can't have raw materials, which means that manufacturing stops. When manufacturing stops, it means we can't get flour in the supermarket. Now, when we start linking all of them together, company 3 is actually the flour manufacturer itself, or the supplier of flour. They can't send flour because company 2 doesn't actually, then means that they keep storing it. They still manufacture everything. They run out of warehouse space, and then all of a sudden, because they run out of warehouse space, the next company that's sharing the warehouse space with the flour manufacturer basically stops, and they can't manufacture anymore because literally they run out of space. And this is how all of this is connected. There isn't a single instance in the world where you can look at a supply chain in isolation. And this is what happened on a grand scale, so to speak. So everything's connected. All of a sudden we see, we can't get anything. So the supply chain broke. Everything's connected one way or another. And right now with COVID, there are so many chains which are broken that we are seeing things which we should be able to get normally and we can't get today. And then on top of that, you get all these normal things that happen where if you look at a normal when this comes through is, this is how people look at a supply chain. This is how a supply chain manager plans for what happens. They look at bottlenecks and constraints and they plan for these bottlenecks and constraints. But all of a sudden we get this pandemic that happens and we get panic buying, people hoarding everything and anything, which we can't plan for, which basically means that we shift our bottlenecks from what we planned for to a different point in supply chain, whether it is distribution, whether it is storage space, whether it is actual being able to get something to a store. It keeps chopping and changing. And to be honest, we are isolated here. Certain things we simply can't get anymore. And it's going to take a while. And the next thing that's going to happen as well is once this is finished, because we've been focusing on a lot of other things besides just a normal day-to-day running, we're going to run out of other things in the next 3 months. This is one, because all the car manufacturers have started making masks. It's going to have a huge shift in what we can get and what we can't get in the next 6 months. So this comes back to, supply chains a fine balance, and this is where things have broken down literally for a few things. And I'll take online shopping as a sample. Right now, we're waiting 4 to 5 days for something to be shipped to us. No matter what, it's simply because Australia Post can't actually ship it fast enough. So it's always going to be a fine balance, and it's a balance between the cost to serve for someone, so basically what someone is willing to pay for something, flexibility on the other side, and what we as customer actually expect. So I'll give you, so we came back from the US just after COVID started, and we were in self-isolation for 2 weeks. So we think, great, we'll just order online from Woolies and have home delivery, but because everything's overloaded. We're still expecting it to happen. So customer expectations are going to shift in the future, where we now, some of our customers have seen a shift going from bricks and mortar planning and dispatch to only online. And luckily, some of them have done really well. Some of them have done really, really poorly. Where if you don't have an online presence or you don't have the infrastructure in place for a station, you can't actually serve your customers anymore. So some of our customers have had to stop operations, some have had to shift completely to online only, and others basically have had to shut shop, literally. So I got people saying that my internet connection keeps breaking up. I'm very sorry for that. Unfortunately, I live out in the countryside with NBN, but Telstra doesn't allow me to go to a funding as lean as I can get. I'm hoping that things will progress. I'm almost finished the last 2 slides, and then we go to an easier, less technology reliant or less internet speed reliant piece of video. Now, the question that we ask ourselves, and the question that we keep asking ourselves, and one of the reasons why we were hosting these sessions is, would technology have helped? Now, technology would have helped all people, and in the end it comes down to each business unique situation, where for some people in a warehousing environment technology would have helped. Some of our customers have really benefited from having technology already implemented at this point in time, but things like inventory, for instance, if you can't get your stock, technology wouldn't have helped at all. What I think, this is a personal thing, just broke down because of communication issues and a lot of old technology being used across the supply chain, whether it is in transport planning or even just using technology like we're using now, Zoom. It would have helped, but it wouldn't have helped everyone. Now, if we then start looking at what is going to happen post-COVID, I think the question to ask yourselves is, where do you want to be? And I think Jeffrey already alluded to this. A survey that I plucked off of LinkedIn yesterday, and I think most of you would have seen this one. This is actually from before COVID started, from 2019. A survey that was done with all warehouse, across a lot of warehouse managers with Gartner, Modern Materials Handling, and High Jump, just to talk about whether people are actually thinking about automation, who's already implemented it, and who is not considering it at all. And if you look at the number of businesses not actually looking for automation, you're talking about 26%. People already have it about 23%, so it's about a 50-50 split. There is about 50% of businesses and warehouse managers right now who are looking at automation. This was before COVID. What we've seen so far is actually an increase in requests for people looking at automation, but a lot of people don't know where to start. And that's where these sessions, they are literally geared towards helping yourselves understand what's available, what could work, what couldn't work, and where to start. So with that, I will hand over to the video, I think, which is going to play next. This is only a couple of minutes, after which we go to a panel discussion, and please ask questions. That's what we're here for.
Sigma takes healthcare very seriously, so we need to make sure that we're able to get medicines, drugs to pharmacies and in turn to customers in the most efficient time. Make sure the integrity of the product's correct, make sure we can service our customers as best we can.
What I'm excited about is the amount of flexibility that this design has got in order to deliver whatever a customer needs, be it cold chain, Schedule 8 medicines, highly productive automated pick-pack operations, bulk storage. It's got the lot. So whoever you are, Sigma can provide something for you as a solution that will deliver to your business or your customers.
With a goods to person, you do 600 lines, for example. A robot does 1,000, 1,200 pieces now. Every minute of the day, night shift, day shift, Sundays, gives you just a very, very high level of flexibility and security in terms of what you're able to deliver to your customers.
It certainly is a world-class facility, state-of-the-art technology in place. Coupled with that is our ERP systems that we do have in place. We do offer our customers full ERP integration. That's the key, which is a benefit to the customer ultimately.
Okay. If everyone can still hear us, we're now going to move into the panel discussion. Baz and Peter, can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right, awesome. I'll just go into introduction. So we're now going to be having a roundtable discussion, throwing a couple of questions at Peter Petito, who's the program manager for Sigma Healthcare, and Baz, who's our principal consultant at Fuzzy Logics, who are both kind of involved in the journey to making that distribution center that we just saw the video of actually become a reality. So the first question that we had for Peter, first of all, when did Sigma start planning for this new site? Maybe you can give us a bit of an overview of the supply chain transformation that Sigma has gone through in the last couple of years.
Thanks, Jeffrey. As you could appreciate, with any new program, it was an entire program of works. So just something as simple as, I like to call things simple. I'm not trying to make things sound easy. But in Kemps Creek design, build, it probably was in the process, took us 3 to 4 years. So it's probably a good year of just detailed planning. You then have a full year of getting things into manufacturing, getting all the business case, everything signed off. You purchase land, you design a building. And then once you actually hit the ground and you've completed your tenders, you've then probably got a 2-year process, a year in building, the warehouse, and then a year with putting together the automation, commissioning before you get to go. So it's almost 4 years when you include, the idea, the planning, searching for land, building, getting a product out to customer.
Yeah, sounds like a very kind of long process. I think you have to be quite patient for it. Yeah, is this the first automated site that you've implemented for Sigma?
Fortunately, I've been involved in the entire network. So our first one was in Brisbane. We've done Perth, Adelaide, and also New South Wales, Sydney. You call it a long process and a patient process. It's actually a really fun process, being lucky enough to actually be involved in all the stages of it. So I think you spoke about data and collecting data, because it's absolutely critical to being able to put it together. But to be able to start with that idea, that data, business case, to actually see it to come to fruition, pretty exciting. Happens pretty quickly, believe it or not.
Okay, and talking about having fun, I think we've both been quite fortunate to be able to work with each other along the way, and I think I'll throw a question towards Baz. Baz, when did you first hear about these projects, and what was your involvement with Pete and the team along the way as well?
We've been working together with Sigma for what, probably 3 to 4 years now. I met Pete before then, even at a different environment. These things take a bit of time, as per your question. They are fun. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind as well is that Sigma went on a journey before this whole COVID thing started as well. So to be fair, they've done really well, and their systems are still within capacity for probably 10 years. So even with COVID happening now, they've got a lot of extra spare capacity to burn. And this might be something because with COVID, and to ask one of your questions, Jeff, sorry. How's COVID impacted your automated sites? Have they benefited you?
So from COVID, absolutely fantastic. I couldn't be any happier with the way our automations supported the business. We would not be able to, if there was that 4 to 6 weeks spike where we had record sales, and there's no way without the automation we would have been able to get critical medicines out to pharmacies. We actually got a lot of accolades, pretty proud of the system. The one in Kemps Creek actually only started operating in January. So to then by February, March to be delivering at record levels at 100%. Couldn't have done it without automation. The existing warehouse guys, which are sometimes not as positive, were actually able to acknowledge the benefits that they couldn't have, the system, the accuracy of the system and the efficiencies.
Yep. Now, thanks for that insight. You mentioned earlier, and I think I touched on it at the beginning of, or halfway through my presentation as well. Being able to be involved in a system of this size with this level of integration, this is what we would call a fully integrated automated materials handling system. It's from go to woe, and maybe you can give us a little bit of insight into what the capabilities of the system are. But before we get there, how you mentioned a little bit about the data, you know, building the business case for this and standing in front of the board, you know, trying to make sure that you're very confident of it. What was your experience? Any key kind of things that you might have done a little bit differently, things that you've learned along the way, maybe after your second or third site? Anything you can share with us about that business case approval process?
I think throughout the process, there's a lot of, as you can appreciate, I call a warehouse 4 walls and a roof. There's a fair bit that goes into it. There's a lot of effort. From a business case point of view, the business case wasn't around the building. The business case purely is around the automation. So I keep things as simple as I can. I'll sit there and say that traditionally people are picking 50 to 60 lines an hour. Here we're able to pick at 500 to 600 lines an hour. Traditionally people are walking around with a headset, walking up and down aisles, walking to aisle 22, level 3, position 4, pick 6, confirm A, and you sort of go, the chances of making a mistake and the efficiencies of that. We've now got a system where the product actually comes to the person. So a person standing at a station where they're driven by lights, and the lights will tell them, pick the number 2 from this location and place it into this customer tote. So you've got a product tote into a customer tote. By simply doing that, you then realize that you're not making picking errors. You're delivering it to the customer in exactly the way they'd like to do it. So I think just those efficiencies from a business case point of view, and everyone loves a business case because they're numbers, and everyone thinks that, yeah, they're great. Everyone talks about it. I've now been able to deliver 4 systems for Sigma, and I can honestly say that they're actually surpassing what our expectations were. And the fact that we've had great partners, Dematic and Canap, and obviously you guys, Fuzzy, you've been supporting us right throughout the process. But it's the integration of the system. And you ask, how would you do things better? It's pretty hard when you've got a really good teams that support you. I'm in design on another site at the moment. And I think from our first site to our 5th site, there's not a lot of difference. There's not a lot of big things. And when you've got, smart, intelligent consultants and everyone advising you, and they come back and go, you know what, guys, you're pretty close. So you can always fine tune. You can always do things slightly better. But basic principles and concepts that we've spoken about, and that's getting a product to a customer in the fastest and most efficient way. So whether it's B2C or B2B, you want to get what you've ordered. If I sit there and order something on eBay, I want it as quick as I can. And something people don't understand from what we do from a pharmacy wholesale point of view, any pharmacist can put an order in today, and it has to be delivered within 24 hours around the country. So we have to hit every site. We can't afford to miss. We get paid for that under the CSO. So, we're able to provide critical drugs. And I think most people would agree that when they go into a pharmacy, that 99% of the time, they're going to find exactly what they want behind the counter. The pharmacist isn't saying we're out of stock. And that's because we're able to do the job. The reason we're able to do it so efficiently, or even more efficiently now, is with the support of some of the automation and technology that support us. Doesn't mean we couldn't do it before, but were we as accurate? Were we as clean? Maybe not. I think we do our best, and the guys picking stock do their best, but we've now taken it to a next level. We photograph every product that comes in and out of the warehouse. We weigh every product that comes in and out of the warehouse. So just from those points of view, you start to see some of the benefits. Sorry if I'm going on too long.
No, that's perfect, Pete. You touched on great points there. Building the right team, focusing on productivity and the logistics of it, taking out that labor, the technology. And that's, I'm glad you provided the anecdote on how competitive your industry as well. I think when I first came into this project, Baz gave me an anecdote that there's a possibility for some pharmacists that are on the fringe, they can place an order with multiple distributors, and whoever gets there first gets the order. So, you know, speed is everything for you. And I might just hand the microphone a little bit over to Baz to just explain maybe the actual technology that's being used in this and what's different about it. And then you'll get the last word. Let us know what's your favorite piece of this baby, because we all love it. So Baz, maybe give us a bit of an overview as to how automated this system really is, because the video might have showed something, but it might have been missed to some people. And then Pete, you can just wrap it up for us to tell us what's your favorite piece and how's that going?
You had a lot of smile. This is probably one of the most automated sites you can find around the country today. So it's as if someone literally went around and took a catalog and said, I'll have everything. And to the point, I'm not sure why I'm still looking at Jeffrey's face in my big screen, but that's okay. To the point that everything that's in there serves a purpose. So there is only equipment in there that is actually helping the bottom line, helping that business case and helping the process. And it ranges from an A-frame for fast-moving products to goods-to-person stations supported by a shuttle system. Probably the biggest thing is it's got 2 piece-picking robots, one implemented in the country itself. And then, of course, everything else, there's dispatch current life storage lanes fed by shuttle systems. You've got a couple of kilometers of conveyors running around, in-feed stations, full case picking stations, decanting stations, empty tote supply, used cardboard conveyor to get trash out of the system itself, and everything in between. Now, this applies to everyone. So if you compare and you go back to Jeffrey's slide from before, where he talks about the islands of automation versus the integrated systems, for a company like Sigma, this works. So islands of automation don't really work because everything can be automated and everything needs to link together. There isn't a single element of the operation where you can just take one component, implement it, and it would help out. It needs to be completely speed. So I'll give back to Pete, because I know he's got his favorites, and I know he's the reason why we have some of these favorite systems in there as well. But on the last thing, automation is a tool in the end. It's there to support a process. It's there to support an operation where it makes sense. So for Sigma, it makes sense to do everything. For others, it may make sense just to do a single thing, and that's what the sessions are about that are coming up. We focus on all areas of a warehouse, every single component, and within every single area that we focus on, we try and find a solution that would work for that. And then the panel discussions are more going to be around asking questions of, would this work for me? How can we implement this? What are some of the learnings we can get out of this from other customers as well? So Pete, hand it over to you.
Thanks, Baz. I think probably you hit the nail on the head where you sort of, people ask, what's your favorite bit? It's like asking, what's your favorite child? It's not anything that I don't like, because as you clearly indicated, we put 2 robots in that, pick individual units. Fantastic. We've got, 10 pick stations. We've got 200 shuttles. We've got pallet lifters. We've got automatic carton erectors and litters and the like. But without it all working together and without each component actually justifying itself, so we pretty much did a business case on each item. So we don't just put an automatic carton erector just for the sake of it. I don't put a pallet lifter, because safety is obviously pretty important to everything we do. So we don't just put a pallet lifter with a turntable on there for the fun of it. I didn't just put the robots in for fun. All right, I did. So, but sorry, that was a little bit of new technology that I was testing and I thought was great to try. But again, there's reasons behind it. And I didn't just put them in without justification. So did it pay for itself? Did it make sense to the business? Is there a benefit to the business in putting these things in? So to sit there and say robots are favorite, or pick stations or decant stations, and we work closely, like I said, with the guys from Fuzzy, with the guys from Dematic, the guys from Canap, the builders, the operators. Without the operators' input on how they use it every day, you sort of, there's no point building it for me, because I won't be picking in there. They're the guys that need to run it. So hopefully that answered your question.
Absolutely, and I think it's a really good kind of overview. The one statement that I was looking for both of you that I don't think eventually really came out was this distribution center can start an order, pick an order, and dispatch an order without any human intervention, right? So that's a big step forward, and it does it across multiple pieces of technology, not just the robotic picking. We've got an A-frame in there as well, and it literally means you can fulfill orders when there's no one in the building, if that's what you want. So that's a step change, and I really like. I think that the key point. I'm just having a look at the way that some of the questions are coming through, relating it back to our first session as well. This focus that we have on building business cases by functional area. You mentioned all the different types of technology. You've got automatic carton erectors. You build a business case for that. You've got automatic induction labeling. You build a business case for that. You pick some of your lines out of goods to person. Some of your lines are picked by a robot. Some of your lines are picked by an A-frame. You've built the business case for all of them. And that's what we're breaking this series down into. We want to help you to be able to walk through your operation and go, that piece, can I automate that? One of the questions that came through is, what types of islands of automation have we been involved in implementing? And to be honest, it's quite a long list. There's customers that we've only focused on their outbound sortation area, and you just provide a conveyor system, or you provide some kind of mobile robotics concept to just focus on sortation. There's other customers that are just looking for, maximizing the cube utilization, vertical carousels, these ASRSs in a box that I referred to. They're on the market now. They can stand on their own. They can provide order fulfillment functionality that you usually have to buy a WMS for, but now it's come directly with the technology. So it's an exciting time.
To Daniel, questions?
Yeah, Daniel, did you want to drive it all?
Well, no, I just, I think from what I can see, I don't know if you guys would disagree, but I think the questions that we have kind of been answered in some way. I think it's, the question we had at the beginning was asking just about how you define flexibility through the process. I think that's quite an interesting one.
I feel like that question may have come from, because it's very counterintuitive. I always say this, and maybe just to get a bit of a reaction, but automation is inflexible by design, because in order to put automation into your distribution center, you have to come up with a design level. That design level is all based on assumptions or data that you've calculated for your business.
Hey, Jeffrey, just a quick one for you, just to counter that that comment. The system that we built at Kemps Creek is completely agnostic. So there's nothing stopping us in there being able to put Easter eggs, mobile phones, jocks, socks, glasses. It could actually pick and do anything. So one of the things that, again, I've tried to be as flexible as I can is to say the system can do everything. But you're right, everything we've designed is bespoke for Sigma, but there's no reason that the same technology, the same systems and processes aren't exactly the same, whether you're doing, again, car parts or socks or jocks, I think.
Well, I think
yes. Go, Baz.
I think flexibility in the process itself, I think Kemps Creek probably the best example out of the four, and this is probably just learning from all of us along the way itself. It's completely different from all the other sites, and what it allows to do is, if something breaks somewhere, so let's say we lose all the pick stations, for argument's sake, you can still get that stock to a robot. If you lose the pick stations, you can still send the stock to a manual area itself for picking. If we lose the shuttle system, then we still have bulk stock available for picking manually, or stock can be in the A-frame or in the manual areas. As long as we don't lose power, and even then you've got backup generators on site to run the site itself. That's a luxury that a lot of people don't have. But there are multiple ways to building flexibility. It just depends on how to have, because every bit of flexibility you put into a system is going to either add some cost, or it's going to add some design features that you're going to have to live with that might impact the overall operation itself.
And I think the points that you referred to there, Baz, I would personally class them more as redundancy than flexibility. When I'm talking about flexibility, it's the ability of a certain type of technology to change, to actually adapt to changing order profiles, to adapt to the changing business conditions. And I think if we look at Kemps Creek as a perfect example, it's amazing for these times. You know, it's been designed specifically to fulfill an order profile that is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, because you expect a large portion of your volume to be picked out of these goods to person, robotic solutions, the rest of it. But if all of a sudden your lines per unit went back, metaphorically, never going to happen, but all of a sudden you start sending large volumes to stores again. You know, your automation is not necessarily going to help you. The full case pick is great in that scenario, but you're not going to be able to be flexible in that scenario, because it just doesn't make sense to decant into a system and then to pull it all back out because it's going out in large quantities. So that's just a very high level example of what the difference that I make between flexibility and redundancy. Whereas these systems, they have to fit, the product has to fit in the tote, the product has to fit a certain order profile to hit what you want. Whereas if it goes the wrong way, you're kind of stuck with something that was designed for something specific.
Yeah.
And it is, Pete, did you want to add something?
No, I was just going to say, you're right, but you try and build the flexibility so that you can pick a 6-pack or you can pick a full case out of it. And it is about doing what's most efficient. Henry asked a question, what was the thought through the process in choosing
the thought process?
Sigma. So I guess what we did then was the first one with Kemps, or with one of the first design, we actually were quite prescriptive. By the time we got to Kemps Creek, I actually went back around and gave everybody the raw data. So I gave them 12 months of Sigma data, exactly what went in, what out, how we picked it, and the whole lot. So we had 4 different suppliers come back with solutions. And with each solution, I asked for a business case to be able to justify that. So I think that was sort of the journey we took to be able to define what was best going to meet our requirements. Everyone came up with a business case on every different component throughout the system.
And that's a really important point you make there, where you went to the market with functional requirements.
Yep.
This is the capacity that I have, or that I'd like to have. This is the throughput, the output that I want to have, the service levels that I need to achieve. What's the best solution for me? You know, and sometimes people dabble a little bit in trying to go with a solution to the market, going, give me the best for this solution. Whereas they're experts as well. They're the best at what they do in their solution suite. And that's you know, I think that's been a key part of the Sigma partnership, is playing to the strengths of the vendors and building strong relationships with them to deliver these projects.
Yeah, we all like to think
that as well.
We all like to think we're experts, and we're all we do understand a fair bit, but the technology is changing so often. So when you're dealing with the guys with Fuzzy that are dealing with so many different sites, so many different projects, and they can see so many different thought bubbles in different areas, you've then got a group of people that can actually go, well, hang on, we've used this example here and used that example there. As soon as you go prescriptive, there's a chance you're going to miss out on opportunities.
I think the thought process for choosing the type of automation, I think the type of automation is driven by what each of the vendors can back with based on their own expertise and portfolio. The choice of who you go with and what system you end up getting is probably more around, first of all, business case, it has to stack up, that's one. But secondly as well, who do you feel most comfortable working with? Because in the end, it's not just a partner in terms of supply of a system to a customer. This is a 10-year, 15-year engagement where you're in bed together for the next 10, 15 years. So if you come across a partner that's going to give you the best solution you can think of for your business, but you feel you can't work with them because there's simply no, either a cultural disconnect or a personal disconnect or something just doesn't line up, it's never going to work. And it comes back to the same thing you said before. If you don't involve, they're the ones that are going to have to work with it every single day. It's never going to work.
Yeah, and you want to build a partnership that's going to be able to get through the fire of a project as well, because Pete mentioned fun, but there was a lot of times where this wasn't necessarily fun, where we were there at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning trying to, you know, make it work. And you need to look for that as well. And it's hard, right? And you develop that as projects go on. The last question, guys, someone's brought up AI. and automation coming up at such a fast pace, what does the future hold for the supply chain? Is it wise to study a degree in supply chain given the current uncertain situation? I'd say straight up yes. Go learn as much as you can about the theory, and that's what we're going to be trying to share, the fundamental first principles behind it all. In terms of AI automation coming at such a fast pace, I agree. And that's why we're really focusing on helping you to see, well, I was supposed to mention somewhere in there, the bleeding edge versus the leading edge. You got to really be careful that, you know, you don't go too far in innovation and end up really getting stuck with the white elephant because it just wasn't proven in the market. And we're hoping to help along the way. AI's got a part to play in general. We're going to talk, I think in inventory, we're going to talk about a slotting software that we use, which is using algorithms to optimize. But WMSs, you know, all of the software layer, and now there's that new version of that, you know, warehouse execution systems, which are supposed to help you make live decisions. That's where AI will play a key part, where you're going to get options and constantly be pushed to optimize your warehouse. And yeah, I'm not sure if you guys want to add anything on that.
Okay, I'll just jump in, guys. We've gone a little bit over, but great chat, and there's some really good questions coming in, so thank you to everyone. Unless anyone else has any further points or thoughts on this, just want to thank everyone who was able to join us today. Really, I'm really glad that we could get off such a strong start. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining us. Great site you have, and some great insight into something that we can really start to build on for the next 8 episodes. Just to let everyone know, the next in the series will take place on the 21st of this month at the same time, 4 p.m. And that is on receiving. The same link that you used to access this webinar will be live for then. So included in the email, you'll be able to put all the dates into your diary so you don't miss any of the upcoming events. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Baz. We look forward to seeing everyone in 2 weeks' time. And have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone.